Am I the a-hole for telling my siblings I don't want to split the bill equally since they have kids and I don't? I am the youngest in my family with two older sisters who are both in their 30s. I'm still in my 20s, and while we're close, there's always been this underlying tension when it comes to money. My sisters both have families, each with two kids, while I'm single and child-free. Now, this wouldn't be an issue except when it comes to splitting bills. Let me tell you, it's always an issue. This year, for Mother's Day, my sister suggested we take our mom out for lunch. Great idea, right? We could all get together, celebrate, and enjoy a nice meal. But here's where it gets tricky. As soon as they suggested it, they started talking about splitting the bill 3 ways, equally. Now, this isn't the first time we've done something like this, and it's definitely not the first time I've had a problem with it. But this time, I couldn't just sit back and say nothing. I've been down this road before, family dinners, holidays, vacations, you name it. Whenever we go out, the bill gets split evenly among us, even though my sisters bring along their husbands and kids. I've been keeping my mouth shut for a long time now, but this time, I couldn't do it. It just didn't seem fair to me that I should be expected to split the bill equally when I'm only paying for myself and my mom, while they're paying for themselves, their spouses, and their kids. So I brought it up. I told them that I didn't think it was fair to split the bill 3 ways since their kids would be eating too. And let me be clear, these kids aren't toddlers who are going to nibble at a piece of bread and call it a day. One of them is almost 18 for crying out loud. They're ordering full meals, drinks, desserts, the whole 9 yards. So I suggested that we split the bill in a way that actually reflects who's eating. As soon as the words left my mouth, I could feel the temperature in the room drop. My sisters immediately got defensive, accusing me of being confrontational and making a big deal out of nothing. They said it was just a family meal and that we shouldn't be nitpicking over who ate what. But to me, it wasn't about nitpicking. It was about fairness. I'm not trying to be cheap. I just don't think it's right for me to cover a portion of their kids' meals when I'm only paying for myself and our mom. Things got worse when my mom found out. Somehow she always manages to find out about these things, and as usual, she took their side. She said I was making a mountain out of a molehill and that I should just let it go for the sake of keeping the peace. But the thing is, I've been letting it go for years now, and I'm tired of it. I'm tired of feeling like I'm being taken advantage of just because I don't have kids. To give you some more background, this isn't the first time something like this has happened. A couple of years ago, we went on a family trip. The plan was that my mom, one of my sisters, and I would split the costs 3 ways. Now, I assume this meant we were splitting the costs of the accommodations and maybe some group activities. But when we got there, it quickly became clear that my sister was including her husband and kids in this arrangement. So there I was, paying 1/3 of the cost for a trip that included her entire family. My mom noticed too, but she begged me to keep quiet about it to avoid starting a fight, so I did. I swallowed my frustration, kept my mouth shut, and paid my share. But it left a bad taste in my mouth, and it's been lingering ever since. This whole Mother's Day situation just brought all those feelings back to the surface. I've been holding my tongue for so long, trying to keep the peace, but I'm at a point where I just can't anymore. Not even about the money, really. It's about the principle. I feel like my sisters are taking advantage of the situation, expecting me to fit a bill that includes their kids when I'm not the one who decided to have kids in the first place. It's not like I'm refusing to pay my share. I just don't think it's fair for me to cover theirs too. So after that whole Mother's Day fiasco, things were tense between my sisters and me. I could feel the tension simmering under the surface, and honestly, I wasn't sure how to deal with it. My mom kept her usual stance of keep the peace, while my sisters seemed to be silently fuming. But I stood my ground. I wasn't about to let this go unnoticed, not this time. A few weeks passed and the dust seemed to settle a bit. My sisters and I weren't as chatty in our family group chat, but we were still cordial enough. Then, out of the blue, one of them suggested we all get together again. This time it was for a weekend dinner at a fairly nice restaurant in town, the kind of place where the appetizers alone could set you back a decent amount. The invite was extended to our mom, of course, and naturally my sisters were bringing their families along. I could already see where this was going, but I didn't want to jump to conclusions just yet. I decided to give it the benefit of the doubt, hoping maybe this time they'd be more considerate about splitting the bill, given how things went down last time. Maybe they'd finally understand where I was coming from. The day of the dinner rolled around and we all showed up at the restaurant. It was one of those cozy, dimly lit places with a warm ambiance, the kind of place that feels welcoming but also makes you aware that you're about to drop some serious cash. My sisters arrived with their husbands and kids in tow, and I could already tell the kids were excited. They were talking about all the different things they wanted to order: steak, pasta, dessert, you name it. We were seated at a large table near the back of the restaurant. The waiter handed out menus, and as everyone started looking over the options, I glanced around, trying to gauge the vibe. My sisters were chatting with their husbands, the kids were debating over which dessert they'd get, and my mom was her usual quiet self, sitting at the head of the table. I couldn't help but notice that there was no mention of how the bill would be split. I felt that familiar pit in my stomach, but decided to wait it out. Maybe they were just waiting until later to bring it up. The evening progressed smoothly enough. We ordered appetizers, main courses, and drinks. The kids were in high spirits and the conversation flowed easily. I made sure to order something modest, nothing too expensive, because I knew where this was heading. I noticed that my sisters and their families weren't holding back. Steaks, cocktails, extra sides, and of course the kids were getting whatever they wanted. By the time dessert rolled around, I was already bracing myself for what was coming. When the waiter finally brought the check, he placed it in the middle of the table, a gesture that felt almost ceremonial. My heart started racing a bit as I waited for someone to say something. My older sister reached for the check first, took a quick glance at it, and then passed it to my other sister, who did the same. Finally, they looked at each other, then at me, and I could tell they were about to drop the "let's split it 3 ways" bomb. "So, I guess we'll just split it 3 ways again," my older sister said almost casually, as if we hadn't just gone through this whole ordeal weeks earlier. I looked at them and I could feel the frustration bubbling up inside me. I knew if I said something, it would probably turn into another argument, but at the same time, I couldn't just let it slide, not again. I had made my point clear before, and I wasn't about to back down. So I did what I thought was the only fair thing to do. I asked to see the bill. My sisters exchanged a quick look but handed it over. I scanned the itemized list, mentally noting what I had ordered, as well as what my mom had eaten. I pulled out my phone and did some quick calculations, making sure I had accounted for everything I needed to pay for. "Actually," I said, trying to keep my tone as neutral as possible, "I'm going to pay for just my meal and Mom's. You guys can split the rest however you want." The table went silent. My sisters just stared at me, clearly taken aback by what I had said. I could see their husbands looking at each other, probably wondering if they should say something. The kids, oblivious to the tension, were still talking about dessert. My mom, bless her heart, just sighed and looked down at her hands, clearly not wanting to get involved. "You're serious?" my other sister finally said, her voice tinged with disbelief. "You're just going to pay for yourself and Mom?" "Yeah," I replied, keeping my voice steady. "That's what I think is fair." There was a long, awkward pause. I could tell they didn't know how to respond. This wasn't the outcome they had expected, and now they were faced with having to actually split the cost of their own meals and their kids' meals. After what felt like an eternity, they finally nodded, albeit reluctantly. "Fine," my older sister said, a bit of an edge in her voice, "if that's what you want." I didn't say anything else. I just counted out the cash for my portion, left it on the table, and excused myself to go to the bathroom. When I came back, the tension was still thick in the air, but the check had been settled. We all left the restaurant shortly after with barely a word exchanged between us. The car ride home was quiet, and I couldn't help but wonder if I had made the right choice or if I had just driven a bigger wedge between us. The next day, I got a call from one of my sisters. I knew this conversation was coming, but I wasn't exactly looking forward to it. "So, about last night," she started, her tone hesitant. "Was that really necessary? Bringing all those friends along just to make a point?" I knew this was coming. "Look, I'm not trying to be a jerk. I just wanted you to see what it feels like. You've been asking me to split bills equally, even when it's not fair, and I'm tired of it. I wanted to show you that it's not right to expect someone to pay more than their share just because we're family." She was silent for a moment, and I could tell she was thinking it over. "I get what you're saying," she finally admitted, "but you didn't have to go to such extremes. We could have just talked about it." "We've tried talking about it," I pointed out, "but every time I bring it up, I'm told to just go along with it because we're family. I needed to show you what it's like." There was another pause, and then she sighed. "All right, fine. I get it. Maybe we haven't been fair to you, but can we try to find a middle ground next time without the theatrics?" I couldn't help but smile a little. "Yeah, we can do that. I just want things to be fair, that's all." "Okay," she said, sounding a bit more relaxed. "We'll figure it out. But no more surprises like last night." "Okay, deal," I agreed, feeling a sense of relief. So here I am, stuck in this awkward situation with my family, trying to figure out if I'm the asshole for not wanting to split the bill equally when I don't have kids to account for. It feels like no matter what I do, someone ends up getting hurt. And I'm left wondering if I should have just sucked it up again for the sake of keeping the peace, but at the same time, I don't want to keep being the one who compromises just to avoid conflict. Am I the asshole for standing my ground and only paying for what I ordered, or should I have just gone along with what they wanted, even if it didn't feel fair to me? Story 2. I had what was meant to be a breakup conversation with my boyfriend, 26M, last night. We've been together 4 years and lived together, but I've grown more and more unhappy. I feel emotionally worn down and disconnected. Little things and some bigger things have piled up over time. The talk came after he spoke down to me after we were with his friends at the cinema. He said, "This is why you have no friends, all because I got a bit shy and didn't know what to say when leaving, because they're not my friends, so I don't know what to say sometimes." I still chatted with them when I could before the film started. This wasn't the first time he said something like this. Other times have been commenting on what clothes don't suit me even when I haven't asked, or the main one that hurt was when I passed my driving test and got my own car. He started criticizing everything. He shouted at me, saying I couldn't drive because I took one wrong turn or that I couldn't park when I had difficulty parallel parking. He admitted months after, when I confronted him about it, that he was acting out of jealousy because he felt like everyone else is ahead of him. He can't drive. I told him this in our talk last night, how I feel like he makes these small jabs or jokes at my expense. I've become emotionally disconnected, even to the point where I don't want sex anymore, and he just nags me for sex, even when I've made it clear I'm not in the mood. We still get along well and have a laugh and cuddle, but he even ruins these moments, making them sexual or touching my boob or something when it just wasn't the right time. And when I tell him stop, he keeps doing it and excuses it jokingly. "Sorry, I can't help it." During our talk, he basically denied my perception, saying that's not true. I didn't say it that way. And the things he did say wasn't meant to come out like that. Then he said the cinema comment was a drop in the ocean compared to everything he does for me. He takes me out, buys my food, etc. He says he does everything for us. At this point, he starts bawling. He tells me he's struggling with his mental health and that he lashes out at people, even his mom. He also denied things I brought up, like when he mentioned my ex a few days ago because I said I liked a hairstyle on his game, and he said, "Oh, is it because it's like your ex's hair?" Which he now claims was obviously a joke, even though I clearly remember him saying it straight-faced and me nervously laughing in shock. Now today I expected to take things more serious since he was so upset last night and didn't want to lose me, but he went straight back to acting like nothing had happened. We cuddled because we were both upset, and when I started talking to him about something random, something I was reminiscing about, he started grabbing my boobs repeatedly while I was mid-sentence. I kept telling him to stop, but he said, "Sorry, I just need them to concentrate." Then when he stood up, he grabbed my boob again and used it to push himself up. I said, "What are you doing?" And he just said, "Sorry, I needed it to stand up," completely unbothered. And again, he's done stuff like this before where he acts like it's an accident, very nonchalant. Then he started with the jokey questions about having sex like he usually does. He said something like, "Do you know what I wouldn't mind now? Pity sex." Then kept asking. Then, when I went to the toilet, he sent me a message asking for it again, but I had made it really clear I wasn't interested tonight. He said it was to get me in the mood. I just ignored it. Then I go upstairs to chill in bed, and he sends another text asking to be sure. I obviously know that I need to break up with him. I'm curious if people have dealt with the same thing. The only thing I'm struggling with now is when to actually leave. I don't want to get comfortable again and stay out of guilt or habit, but I also feel scared of making that leap since it's a big decision since we own a house and a cat together. Story 3. I, 34M, have always had a complicated relationship with my sister Megan, 30F. Growing up, she was the golden child, good grades, popular, the usual story. Meanwhile, I was the quiet kid who kept his head down and worked hard. We were never close, but I thought we at least had a basic level of respect for each other. That was until last weekend when everything blew up. A little bit of background, about 18 months ago, Megan wanted to start her own business, a mobile nail salon. She needed a £15,000 sterling, 0 pence, loan to purchase equipment, supplies, and a second-hand van to convert. The problem was her credit was terrible. She's always been terrible with money, maxing out credit cards and getting store cards she can't afford. No bank would touch her loan application with a 10-foot pole. I was already side-eyeing this whole thing anyway due to her history, which we're all well aware of. So she turned to our dad, 62M. Dad's a retired electrician, worked hard his whole life, owns his home outright, and has excellent credit. He's always had a soft spot for Megan. When she batted her eyelashes and talked about how this business would finally give her the stable income she needed, he agreed to be her guarantor. Mom, 60F, wasn't happy about it, but Dad insisted. Megan had grown up and would make the payments. I mean, she's his daughter, right? Routh. Just don't get me started. For about a year, everything seemed fine. Megan would mention making payments whenever we had family dinners. She'd post pictures of her mobile nail salon on Instagram, and it looked like she was getting a decent number of clients. Dad seemed relieved, and even Mom had started to believe Megan had finally gotten her act together. Fast forward to last Saturday. I was visiting my parents for lunch when there was a knock at the door. Dad answered and came back looking like he'd seen a ghost. 2 bailiffs were at the door with official-looking paperwork. Apparently, Megan hadn't made a single payment on her loan in the past 6 months, not one. And because Dad was the guarantor, they were there to assess what items could be repossessed to cover the debt. It was all he did as they wouldn't leave, and one of them already had his foot literally in the door, and apparently that legally entitles them access. Not sure on this, but doesn't matter. The loan company had been trying to contact Megan for months with no response. They'd sent multiple letters to Dad as well, but we later discovered Megan had been intercepting his mail. She has a key to their house and often stops by when they're out. By the time the bailiffs showed up, the debt had grown to over £20,000 sterling, 0 pence with late fees and interest. My dad was devastated. He's 62, retired, and suddenly facing a massive debt. The bailiffs took inventory of his belongings, including his car, his woodworking tools, his retirement hobby, and even assessed the value of the furniture. They gave him 2 weeks to either pay up or they'd come back to take the items. Mom was in tears. I was furious. After the bailiffs left, I called Megan immediately. She didn't answer. I texted her. Nothing. Finally, I drove to her flat and found her packing her car. She tried to act surprised to see me, but I think she could see I was pissed and put 2 and 2 together. When I confronted her, she broke down crying, saying the business had failed months ago. She'd been pretending to still run it while actually working at a pub. She claimed she meant to catch up on the payments but never had enough money. Instead of talking to Dad or the loan company about it, she just ignored it until it was too late. The worst part, she had spent the loan money not just on business supplies, but also on a holiday to Spain, new clothes, and other luxuries. The van she bought was sitting outside her flat with a flat tire, filled with boxes of unused nail products, I lost it. I told her she needed to empty her bank accounts, sell whatever she could, and give Dad every penny. She cried and said she was sorry but couldn't afford to pay anything right now. And then she had the audacity to ask if I could help her with money to sort this out. I refused. I told her she needed to face the consequences of her actions for once in her life. She accused me of being jealous of her and stormed off. I mean, maybe there is some resentment for the way we were differently treated, but still, doesn't excuse this shit. I went back to my parents' house and helped Dad contact a debt advisor. We're trying to work out a payment plan, but it's going to seriously impact their retirement. Dad's entire pension might go toward these payments for years, but in all honesty, I'm starting to lose a bit of sympathy, and here's why. Megan has been blowing up our family WhatsApp group telling everyone I'm cruel and unsupportive. She's convinced our aunt and a few cousins that I'm being heartless when she's going through a hard time. Meanwhile, she's posted pictures of herself at a pub quiz last night, seemingly without a care in the world. I've blocked her number for now. Dad is still defending her, saying she made a mistake and we need to help her. Mom is torn between supporting Dad and being furious with Megan. I've told my parents I'm done with Megan. I won't be at any family gatherings if she's there. I've also refused to contribute any money toward paying off her debt, even though I could probably afford to help a bit. I told them they should let the bailiffs take her stuff first before losing their own possessions, which I later found out her possessions won't clear the debt anyway. But Dad thinks I'm being vindictive, but I think she needs to learn there are consequences to her actions. So am I the asshole?